Touchdown, Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith. Bolts improved to 4-3, beating the Saints pretty soundly. An ugly game, Money, but the second half, the offense came alive and so many different things to talk about. But I'll tell you this, Justin Herbert looks healthy, and I think that's the biggest difference over this last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, you talk about Greg Roman offenses, the ones that have been successful, the Stanford offenses with Andrew Luck, the 49er offenses with both Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, and of course the Ravens, offense with Lamar Jackson, and you've got a quarterback that runs, that threat helps open things up. It predicates big plays, and I think you're starting to see that now with Herbert. Now, look, they're not designed runs, and that's different than what he was doing with Smith and Kaepernick and Jackson. But it's such a huge weapon when you have a quarterback that's not only as athletic as Justin, but on that first run that ignited the sideline. I'm sure you saw the Chargers social media, posting a lot of clips, and Khalil Mack, and you see that whole sideline, Morgan Fox, and like that does a lot, especially because the offense was stuck in the mud. A play like that, choosing to take on Tyrann Mathieu. And that's the difference from having a guy that's, 6'1" and 190 pounds and 6'6", 250 pounds, that you're able to do that. And I do think it was a catalyst to really kind of get things moving on that side of the ball.
You talk about a hell of a game. Matt Money Smith had a heck of a game. NFL Films, our Chargers social accounts. Listen, the second Ladd McConkey touchdown, and we'll get into Ladd and just, you and I talked about him 2 weeks ago about how he's this close to breaking a few, and sure enough, he did on Sunday. But dude, you had an awesome call of that, and just
Thanks,
so many throughout the course of the game, and to see Khalil mic'd up and joking about Ladidi and everything. It was cool to see kind of the team starting to come together a little bit. And I think sometimes we forget that this is a new coaching staff and a new defense, a new offense, and these guys are still learning each other and kind of building towards something. And the fact that Justin's healthy now, and you're starting to see, I think, the defense and offense kind of complement each other. The second half was like a best illustration, I think, you can draw up for it.
Yeah, look, it takes a minute. When you think about how Herbert operates and runs the quarterback position, and how he throws with anticipation and lets that ball go before a receiver is out of his break, is coming, 2 weeks ago with Josh Palmer coming back to the ball, let that thing go while he's still streaking down the field, assuming that, he's going to break this off and come back 5 yards. And like, it's hard to do that in 6 games, with Ladd. You're still like, hey, if I cut this thing loose while Ladd's not watching him, but the defender's got his back to me, I know he's not going to intercept it, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if Ladd's going to flip around and get this thing on his head. And sure enough, he does. And I think that's what we're talking about. Like, that's what you're kind of speaking to when you say, hey, man, offense takes a little bit of time. Defense isn't quite as much of an adjustment as offense, because offense, there's so much trust and there's chemistry, and when's he going to let the ball go? Where do I need to be in my breaks? I've got a choice route. Where does he typically think my choice is going to be? It's all of those things. And I think you see, coming off a game against Arizona where Ladd had 2 drops, the adjustment, the corrections, and that was across the board. There were so many corrections and adjustments and kind of, just do-rights, based on what happened the game before. And that's just encouraging. It's so encouraging to watch. Like, hey, it's not something that's going to be, you make a mistake and you build off it. Failures create successes. And that's what we saw in this game from countless players.
Just to take you guys inside the locker room Monday night in Arizona, after that game, obviously a quiet locker room, but all the receivers were huddled around, just talking about the game, what happened, what went wrong, and what you can do to be better. And I think it just kind of speaks to what you were saying about the adjustments that were made by the wide receivers. And for Justin, Money, it almost felt like his rookie year where, T. Billy and Jalen Guyton are catching big passes, like Jalen Reagor and Joshua Palmer. Simi Fehoko put up on his Instagram the screenshot of both feet down on his touchdown too. So the fact that Justin is trusting all of these receivers. I think that says a lot about his confidence in these guys. And, keep in mind that we still are waiting for DJ Chark to be activated. We're still waiting for Quentin Johnson to get back into the lineup. So this is definitely still a work in progress. But again, I just go back to the health of Justin Herbert, man. The fact that he can move, make all the throws. That throw that he made to Ladd, man, not many people, that second one in the end zone that you called, not many people can make that throw in the NFL. So I think it's an exciting time for Chargers fans to say, okay, this is what the offense can look like. And I will say this, it's the Saints defense. They were the worst in football coming into the game, and you take advantage of those defenses, but I think it builds confidence.
Yeah, look, the Arizona defense had been struggling mightily, and they weren't able to take advantage of it. They could only get five field goals out of it. So, there's a lot. I love that you brought that up about the receivers because, let me start here. And I've said it repeatedly. I said it during the game, and because it really is upsetting to me, and it shouldn't be because it's not. Well, I guess it should because it has nothing to do with me. Well, I guess it does. I'm talking in circles now. I want to call touchdowns. I want to call explosive plays. People get excited, and it gets people juiced up, and those are the calls that end up on NFL films and on the social. So, yeah, selfishly, there's something in it for me, but more than that, and let me just make sure I pull this up so I got this right. If you go to Simi's page on ESPN.com, the first highlight is from Stanford from 2020. That's the highlight that's on Simi's page. His career numbers are 1 touchdown with a long of 30. He's got 15 targets this year, 6 receptions. He's caught 10 passes in his career and 1 touchdown. And here he is. He makes an incredible play. He adjusts and contorts his body, secures the reception, toe drags the back of the end zone, and it's a touchdown. And again, it's a guy that's got 10 career receptions in his 5th season here, or 4th season. It's inexcusable. It just is. It is inexcusable for 7 officials to miss it and not understand. Call it a touchdown. Call that. And the back judge, it happened right in front of us. The back judge is watching, and he starts walking toward the field judge. And I even said it on the air. If you were listening to the broadcast, I said, I think he's going to come over and call this a touchdown. We're going to get a look at this. And that's what should have happened. You got one guy that says no. You got one guy that says yes. You guys are absolved, and now it goes to replay.
Yeah.
And the replay would have seen that toe was in, and Simi would have had his 2nd touchdown of his career, a highlight play on NFL films this week in the NFL, on Sunday Night Football, all of that. And instead he gets nothing. And the NFL has got to stop digging their feet in and insisting, it's got to be our way. We can't take anything from college. We've got to do this
right.
Just do what college does. Every single play is reviewed. And if they want to review it, they buzz. There's no stupid challenge flag and wheeling a freaking monitor onto the field. It's a waste of time, and it should not happen. Get 2 people in the booth, and the second they want to look at something, no matter what it is, they buzz the official, they look at it real quick, and play resumes. And this whole charade and this BS of challenge flags, just get rid of it. It's so dumb, and it took a touchdown away from a guy that deserved it and should have been on all the highlight reels and on the Sports Center top 10s and on Sunday Night Football at halftime, and you took that moment away from him, and it's a shame. It just flat out is. It really, really upsets me.
Yeah. And let me give you another example. And, at the end of each game, as you go into the locker room, you're thinking, okay, what's the lead of this game? What decided this game? What are people really going to be talking about? And for me, the first thing I gravitate towards is, the offense is stagnant until Shepard of the Saints tries to break Justin Herbert's ankle, and Bradley Bozeman takes matters into his own hands, and all of a sudden everyone's a little juiced up. They score a touchdown on that drive, and then they get 2 more in the second half. And I almost felt like that was the kind of the turning point in the game for the Chargers offense, because it was ugly in the first quarter, man.
Yeah,
going into the second quarter, it was not good. That did something, man. That got everybody a little fired up. But my problem is, you throw the flag on Shepard immediately, and why is Bozeman getting flagged for protecting his guy? And I get you can't retaliate.
You can't do that, but you do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you have to flag it. I mean, you have to flag it.
I know.
but it's worth the flag. And that's kind of what we said, Chris, on the broadcast. We're like, hey, this is going to negate a nice play by JK and a heck of a shovel pass by Herbert. But you know what? Don't care. It's not worth the 13 yards. Take the double flag, the offsetting, and they end up getting a touchdown on the drive anyway. And Bozeman does what you're supposed to do. But, I mean, you can't.
But it's blatant.
I know what you mean.
Intentional. It's like, and
Yes.
we see players get suspended for less. Let's just be honest. So I don't know, as we take this on Halloween, I haven't looked into if he got fined or suspended yet.
It's a good question. Yeah, I would have expected it would have been levied by now.
You would have thought, man, because that's just something that needs to be eliminated from the game. That was egregious. That was uncalled for. But I tell you what, Bradley Bozeman got some points from his coach and from his teammates and the offense and the defense on the sideline.
And from the football community, the national football community. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's an ugly play, and it's something that I was pretty upset on the call and said that he should be ejected and suspended, and said he's lucky that the referee and Herbert in particular got in the way, or else Bradley Bozeman was looking to kill that guy. And the way he's just mashing the helmet off of his head and his head into the turf. So you have to flag it. But I think you see in the heat of the moment, like, one of the beautiful things about something like that, now that, we that Herbert was fine and he didn't injure him, even though he was trying to injure him by, like, as Bozeman described it, gator rolling him. And Herbert just had to surrender to it and let his body go where Shepard wanted it to go instead of fighting it, or else there could have been a serious injury. But now that doesn't happen, I think you see, what that relationship is between a center and a quarterback, between an offensive line. And it's a beautiful illustration of selflessness, of sacrifice, of these five guys. If you don't know what the quarterback means to them and protecting his health and doing everything they can in their power to prevent him from being injured or hit or hurt or dinged up, that's it. Like, that's the illustration right there. That's what it means to them. Like, they take that job very seriously. Our job is to protect this individual. And whether that's on a snap and a drop back, or when we see something like this happen, we will do it. We will put ourselves in harm's way to make sure that dude, it's like the Secret Service, and he's the president. You just we're that's whatever. We're jumping in front of the bullets. That's what they do, and I think you saw it illustrated in that moment for sure.
Have you noticed Justin got a little more juice too during the game?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's Coach Harbaugh or just feeling it in the moment, but I've noticed a little bit more swagger with Justin, and I do think that that's infectious to everybody on the football team.
Yeah, part of it too is, I think, a message that he's sending to Coach Harbaugh and to Greg Roman, like, hey, I know, I kind of know what you said coming in, like, my best friend's the running game, and let's get this balanced offense, and this is how you guys like it, and we got to have this identity and this physical team, but we can still have it. We can still have it, and I can still be, offensive line, tip of the spear. Okay, but the very tip of the spear is me. That's what you have. Just yes, yeah. I get what you're saying, but let's not kind of forget what we got here, and I can do it. And I just think that's the way he's wired. Is he likes having it put on his shoulders, and he wants it on his right arm. And I think it takes. Look, it's as much of a learning curve for Herbert to figure out what Greg Roman wants and what Coach Harbaugh want. And it's also a learning curve for them. Like, well, hey, let's kind of adjust a few of these things, because there's people we've never worked with someone like this. There's never been someone that we've had as the director of this production that can do what this guy can do. So let's just continue to figure it out and tweak and adjust and get this thing right. And I think if it's going to continue as Ladd McConkey grows into being an NFL player from being a rookie, and Jalen Reagor makes the catch of his life, and now maybe there's a little bit more trust there, and maybe, like you said, DJ Chark is coming back. Like, this thing's going to continue to develop, and it's going to continue to work itself into ultimately, hopefully, by the time week 18 rolls around, they really feel like they found a rhythm, and this team has won enough games to get into the playoffs, and they can really be a dangerous bunch.
I saw a stat the pass rate for the Chargers, I think weeks 1 through 4, where it was like last in the league, or
Yeah.
one of the worst in the league, and then now it's way up there the last couple of weeks. But I think that needs context. Like, give the coaches some credit. When Justin hurt his ankle in week 2, he
Right.
couldn't move. He could not move in Pittsburgh. He could certainly not move against Kansas City. So you can't open up the playbook. You can't throw the football as much as you want to because you have a quarterback on one leg. He gets a week off during the bye. They're up 23-0 in Denver. So, of course, you're not going to throw the ball around the yard when you're up 23-0 going into the second half. So I do think that they've let it loose a little bit more, but I think you have to give Greg Roman and Coach Harbaugh some credit for keeping them in the games that Justin could not be Justin Herbert. I mean, against Pittsburgh, he had to leave. Week 4, you could tell he could not move. He did not have Joe Alt. He did not have Rashawn Slater. So I think some of these numbers need context. Who knows? Maybe they let Justin air it out a little bit more against Pittsburgh and Kansas City had he been 100% healthy. And I do think that there's some context there that, man, they hung with Pittsburgh and they hung with Kansas City with their all-world quarterback on one leg.
I think what I'm guessing is, look, as I'm looking at the weekly ranks. So the offensive ranks week by week, in the NFL. After the first week, they're a top 5 run team. After the second week, they're the number 2 rush team in the NFL. Then they go to 7, 11, 9, 10, 18, 20. You look at the pass, it's just the opposite, right? From 23 to 28 to 31, 31, 31. Now 29, 24, 23. I think what they're realizing is, we can't run the ball because we're not throwing it. And it's just, there's too many men in the box. There's too many men in the box. And there was a play in the Saints game, and it's funny, when Lorenzo and I were talking earlier in the week, we both had he started talking and I started finishing. I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this, because it's what people don't recognize about running the football. And they start piling on JK, do we need to find another back? And it's just, no, it's just, there's so many moving parts when you run the ball. There are it illustrated why you had to have this thing open, because you've got it perfectly blocked. Slater's got his block. Zion's got his block. Here comes Joe Pullen. He's sealed his block. Matlock has sealed his block. And then there's one player that's not able to secure the block. And what would have been a rip on that left side that might have gone all the way. It might have been a 60-yard touchdown run for JK. But that block was not secured, and it's knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And I bring it up because think about how many people I'm talking about. 2 offensive linemen, a fullback, and a pulling. It was either Joe or Trey. It might have been Trey that was pulling. That's 4 blocks that were executed, and yet you still needed a 5th block because of how many guys the Saints had in the box. I mean, they got 9 guys waiting for that run, and still you might have popped it. You got to get that thing to breathe. You got to get it from 7, 8, 9 guys to 6, 7, because Herbert's burning them downfield. And that's what I think they realize now. It's like, this thing's got to breathe, or else it's just going to be, you need perfection. If it's not perfect on the snap, that's what's going to happen. It goes from a potential 60 to a gain of 1. Because the 5th guy that you needed to knock this thing out couldn't quite get it right in that moment, or just got beat in that moment by a very capable NFL defender, and you lose the rep. And so I think I know that's a long way to get to the point of, you got to throw the ball, because these defenses, you've got to get them on their heels. They're way too much on their toes, and they don't believe that Simi or Ladd or Jalen Reagor or Josh Palmer are going to beat them downfield, so they don't care. They're playing one-on-one, and they're committing the extra bodies to stopping the run. And now that you're putting on film what these guys are doing and what Herbert's able to do, well, now you got to sit back a little bit, or else Ladd's going to burn you for a 60-yard explosive. It should have been a 30-plus yard touchdown for Simi. Josh has got those long pass plays, and that's what's happening. And now you can put on film, guys got to back out a little bit. And now the run game can get rolling again. And now play action's going to work again. And now they can kind of get this thing moving.
On Location, official hospitality partner of the NFL and the LA Chargers, offering Chargers fans the opportunity to lock in verified Super Bowl tickets and access to exclusive pregame parties with an official VIP ticket package. Take your pick from the best seats at Caesars Superdome, including the most coveted seats at the 50-yard line, and exclusive access from private pregame parties featuring big-name entertainment, chef-inspired food, and top-shelf bar to post-game field celebrations. Incredible experiences are coming in hot. 5-star hospitality. Go first class all the way from the moment you arrive in New Orleans. Enjoy personalized concierge services, excursion planning, reserved parking, a VIP gifting suite, and many more premier perks. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLIX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket packages today.
Yeah, Palmer had a 45-yard reception.
Yeah.
Rager with the 24-yard reception. We talked about Ladd's 60-yard touchdown. You listen, Jim Schwartz's defense, that's the hallmark of the Browns. It's going to be. And Greg Newsome, the corner, talked about Justin Herbert, how he may have the best arm talent in the league in terms of just getting the ball exactly where it needs to be. So that's going to be a fun matchup, Schwartz versus Herbert on Sunday. Let's talk about the Chargers defense. 2 of 16, the Saints were on third down. The Chargers have been awesome on third down all season. They did allow 366 yards, but the defense has been lights out, okay, through 7 opponents. Nobody has scored more than 20 points. But I will say this, the quarterback luck, the opposing quarterback luck through the 8 weeks has been remarkable. Gardner Minshew, who was benched and now he's back. Bryce Young, who was benched, now he's back. Justin Fields, who was benched. Mahomes obviously held him to 17 points. Bo Nix, a rookie, up 23-0 at one point. Kyler Murray got loose for a couple of plays, and that was the difference. And then Spencer Rattler, a rookie, backup. Sunday, Jameis Winston. Week after that, we either got Will Levis or Mason Rudolph under center. And then it starts to get a little real with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield. So taking advantage of the opposing quarterbacks, the Chargers for the most part have done that. This is why the next 2 weeks I think are so critically important for the team. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat when you have a better quarterback and a better head coach. And I think over the next 2 weeks, it's going to be imperative for this team to get to 6-3 as they start to hit this stretch of the season where the quarterbacks are on that same playing field as Justin.
Yeah, look, defense is tough, man. It's tough to play defense in this league now. You've got incredibly creative coordinators, and you've got rules that favor the offense. And I think kind of what you're speaking to when you look at the yardage total, it's funny. It almost kind of plays into what Brandon Staley used to sell, right? Which is force them. Don't allow these 5-play scoring drives, these explosives. You force them to have to work their way down the field, and it's kind of what this defense has done, right? So, yeah, you've got this Alvin Kamara explosive, but then you follow that up with a holding penalty, or you follow that up with a tackle for loss, and you follow that up with, a sack. I mean, they have 5 sacks in this game, and they had 3 holding penalties in this game, and it's like that's what you have to do is, okay, yeah, you got us there. But then you followed up immediately with a negative play, and now they're out of field goal range, and now you're pinning your ears back. And Spencer Rattler, they ran draws on 3rd and long or these dump off passes. Well, yeah, because they knew the pass rush was getting home, and if they weren't running that, they were just going to take more holding penalties or more sacks, so that all plays into it. I understand completely that yes, there's a lot of yardage out there. And there were a couple plays that a better quarterback, maybe Derek Carr, if he's in there, makes. Chris Olave flashed wide open on what would have been a run to the end zone unimpeded, but Rattler just didn't see it. But look, a lot of that's the pass rush, and you start heating them up, and now you're seeing ghosts, and you're going to get rid of the ball a little bit faster. So to me, it's so hard to play that game. The defense is what it is right now, and it is that until it isn't. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. But they're allowing 13 points per game. And they played a Steelers team when their offense was banged up and couldn't get anything going. And they had to be on the field over and over again, and one explosive got him. And that Chiefs game, one play got him. It was one play where there was just a little bit of a misstep on press and a little bit of miscommunication with some safety help, and Xavier Worthy gets him for 54 yards. 17 points. I know Rashee Rice went down in the game, and they had to adjust for that, and there was no Isaiah Pacheco, but whatever. Whatever. That's what they had. It's what they had to play with, and they're winning. And until it changes, until Joe Burrow comes here and rips them for 400 yards and 35 points, until Lamar Jackson, puts up a 40, I don't want to hear it. Like, let's see it happen. And then once it happens, then you can start dinging the group and say, well, here you go. This is what it really is, because that's who they faced before. But until that happens, Jameis Winston just put up 330 and 3 tugs. He just did it. Just did it. Against who? It's freaking Ravens. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see if he can do it again. I don't want to hear that you had to face Jameis and no Amari Cooper and a team that's already starting to auction off its pieces ahead of the November 5th trade deadline. If Zadarius Smith's going to sit out again because he seems to be one of the big guys, maybe it's David Njoku who's going to be moved. Team's 2-6. They got the Deshaun Watson contract. They probably got to start amassing some draft picks to try to restock this because of what their salary situation is. But I think that I hope that makes sense. Like, look, that's who they are. Sorry, it's who they are. It's a team that allows 13 points to their opponents. And until that starts to change, they have not allowed a team to score more than 20 this season, and that is damn hard to do.
It's remarkable, man. And, for Cleveland, listen, Baltimore's secondary has struggled all season long.
Yeah, they have.
Jameis took advantage of it. And I think two things. The Ravens and Browns, for as poor as the Browns have been playing, it's a division game. Those division games are always close. And to see Jameis for the first time in the Stefanski offense, yeah, it's going to look a little bit different than Deshaun Watson. Now, I think the Chargers have the advantage of seeing what Jameis did last week against the Ravens. And the thing about Jesse Minter, and I think it was Derwin who said it in the locker room after the game, is like, we feel like we got the script. Like, we feel like we got the blueprint before we go into the game. That's how prepared Jesse Minter has this unit. So I have no doubt that the defense will be more than prepared for Nick Chubb and Jameis Winston on Sunday. And Money, I can't say enough about these 2 5th-round rookie corners, Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart. The hit that Cam Hart laid on Chris Olave on Sunday, man, that's real. Like, this is a rookie, man. And to have those guys playing the way that they're playing, all credit to Jesse Minter for developing these guys. I think a couple of weeks ago, you and I went over all the rookies who are contributing, but obviously we know about Joe Alton, Ladd McConkey, but to see like how quickly these corners are contributing in the back end, and hopefully you get Asante back, and obviously Christian Fulton's been a little banged up, but to know that you can actually count on those guys as we enter week 9, it's pretty awesome.
Look, it kind of goes back to what I said with Ladd, right? And the 2 drops, and now you come back 6 targets, 6 receptions, 2 touchdowns. The look at Cam Hart, right? Hanging his head, gets pulled off the field, commits a personal, an unnecessary roughness penalty on an incomplete pass as he arrives late. But at the same time, what the intent is. I'm coming and I'm going to dislodge that ball so it's not a first down. Unfortunately, got a little too much head into it. It led to the interference penalty that then led to the game-winning field goal. And yet, here he is, right back at it. And what happens in this rep? This rep, heads up, shoulders down. It was a catch, but it's a message that you're sending to receivers when they're watching film that, hey, here's a 6'2", 210-pound guy that is coming, and you're going to have that seed planted. If you're up and Jameis putting you in a bad position, then you know what's coming from Cam. And so it's great. It's great stuff to put on film. And I credit the rookie for not backing off, for not being afraid of drawing a penalty, for not being afraid of getting fined, as someone who's not making a ton of money. He's a 5th-round pick, and those fines are steep. So that's a great adjustment that he made. I mean, look at his last 2, 12 tackles, 10 solos. If you were to pull 1 tackle, if you were to say, hey, let's get some teaching tape from this Saints game of how you're supposed to form tackle and make sure you're not giving anything up and making sure that you are in a best position to not have a missed tackle and a broken tackle on your resume, you're pulling that Tarheeb tackle. It says form, square up, wrap, and drop. Like that's, like you said, that goes to Coach Klink, to Coach Minter, and what these guys are doing with young developmental players who have been pressed into duty because of injuries to Asante Samuel and a hammy that just will not stop dogging Christian Fulton, who had been playing some of the best corner in the league, and you look at the game against Baltimore, it's great to have it, right? It's funny, man, I already got all my notes and stuff because we're leaving on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. It's wild to look at. Let me see, where did it go? Browns, with Jameis having the 330-yard game. I got to find it because I know I wrote it down. Here we go. This team has had 7 different offensive line combos in 8 games. Like that's what they're dealing with because of all the injuries to Jedrick Wills and Batonio and to Posick and to all these guys. But come on, where is it? Here we go. Watson. His passing high from 2023, 196 yards through the air. He had 0 300-yard games in 24. In 24, his high was 193. He had 0 300-yard games in 2022. Damn it, I keep getting the years wrong. My dog is right here. She's bouncing all over my arm, and she's distracted me. Let me reset this. Pretend like it was all edited out. All right, here we go.
Boom. Let's go. Clean slate.
Deshaun Watson's passing high in 2024, 196 yards. Jameis just threw for 330. Last year, he had 0 300-yard games. Joe Flacco had 5. So you can see this team was handicapped with Deshaun Watson back there. They just couldn't throw the ball. I bring it up because, well, now at least you've got a game to see what they're going to do. They threw it 41 times. They ran it 23 with James, and he spread it out, man. 7 receptions for Cedric Tillman, 8 for Elijah Moore, 5 for Jerry Jeudy, 5 for David Njoku. He had 2 touchdowns to Ced Tillman, who I think had, what did he have before that in his career? Guy had, that's it. Last week he had 7 catches, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. This entire season, he's got now 18 receptions, 7 of them last week. He had 11 going into this game. And that's the kind of performance he put up. So I bring all that up to point out it's going to look different. It's not your Kevin Stefanski hand the ball to Nick Chubb 30 times and run a couple play actions for David Njoku and Amari Cooper because you're on your heels. They aired it out, man. They let Jameis get after it. 41 attempts, man. Got sacked twice, no interceptions, fumbled and lost it once. So now you kind of know that was a long freaking, that's too much of me talking, but I think you get the point.
Not at all, dude. Listen, just to go back to your point, when you called Tarheeb and Cam Hart developmental players, yeah, they were supposed to be developmental players. Now they're actually starting for the Chargers secondary, a defense that's allowed 13 points a game. The Browns have not scored 20 points a game until last week with James. They had not scored. I think they're the only team in the NFL not to score 20 points.
Yeah, they were.
So that changes. So 29 points from this Jameis Winston offense. At the same time, if you guys didn't watch the game, Kyle Hamilton should have ended the game if it dropped the interception. So that goes to say that Jameis is going to give you one. He's always going to give you one.
He's going to give you 3.
He may give you a few, and that's why I think one of the keys of the game is really if you can get a couple of turnovers, turn him over. The Chargers have been doing a good job of getting the football from the opposing offense, and whether it's Derwin or one of these corners, get 1, get 2, get 3. And that could potentially decide the game. But yeah, Money, I'm with you. I do think that having that one game to watch Jameis, the Ravens didn't really have that luxury. Now, Jim and company and Coach Minter get to see kind of what this offense looks like. And like you said, I mean, Nick Chubb is coming off that terrible knee injury. He's not all the way back yet, averaging 3.3 yards a carry last week. So, yeah, they're going to try to run the football a little bit, but this is going to be a pass-heavy offense led by Jameis Winston.
Look, last week they had their longest play from scrimmage this season, and it was 38 yards. You know, and it's the 8th game that they play. They had already played 7 games, and they had not had a play go longer than 38 yards, and that just happened last week.
And for context, Josh Palmer had a 45-yard reception last week, and Ladd McConkey had a 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's
for a struggling Chargers offense.
I will say, let's not forget now, like their longest play from scrimmage was that 41-yard catch that Rager made in Arizona that he managed to fumble right after, like that. So we kind of know a little bit about it, and how important it is to open things up, because they couldn't do anything. Like Deshaun was so bad passing. And look, he's not playing. I will say this. They already announced, at least Mary Kay Cabot tweeted out that JOK is not going to play.
Yeah.
And man, I hope he's okay, because that's a serious deal. The neck injury, he's taken out on a stretcher.
That was a brutal injury, man.
For the fact that everybody knows who Myles Garrett is, that everybody talks about these two corners in Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. There's not a lot of interceptions there, but when it comes to being sticky, they're pretty darn good. They're safeties. Grant Delpit, like, he's not someone that people mention. And without JOK, he is their leading tackler, 61 tackles. He's their leading sack man, or second in sacks with 3. Behind Zadarius Smith, he's got a half sack less than Myles Garrett. He leads the team in tackles for loss with 10. He's got 3 passes defense to forced fumble and interception. Like, that dude wreaks havoc. And not having him, Jim Schwartz not having him, takes a huge, huge weapon away from what they like to do defensively, and being able to have a linebacker. He's very much like a Derwin James, where he can do it all, man. He can cover, he breaks up passes, he's got good hands to secure interceptions, he punches balls out for forced fumbles. They can deploy him as a pass rusher, and he's a missile with all those tackles for loss. That's a huge, huge loss for that defense.
Yeah, and also keep in mind Denzel Ward, as we tape this, in concussion protocol. Yeah. So we don't know if we'll see him. Like, if the Chargers, we talked about the Patrick Surtain injury a couple of weeks ago that happened at the beginning of the game. That was a big, and then Lattimore goes out of the Saints game last week. So keep an eye on Denzel Ward.
Yeah, leads the NFL in passes defense, 12 through 8 games. 12 through 8 games, and he is sticky, man.
And you wonder, you were talking about selling off guys like the Browns, especially after this week. If the Chargers are able to beat the Browns, like, they may be selling off a lot of guys, from Njoku to, I don't know, it'd be Ward or Newsome or one of those corners.
It'd be Newsome, because he's up for the contract. He's coming into that year 5, like Slater. I mean, they were both drafted in the first round together, as you know, your alma mater.
Yeah.
So that would be the one, because they just gave Ward that giant contract, so they don't want to eat all that signing bonus money. Newsome's an interesting one, just because he doesn't pick balls off. You're talking about year 5, and he's only got 2 career interceptions, but he's a really good cover corner. So it's kind of like, what's the value? Like, what are you getting back from a guy that you invested a first round pick in, who's a really good player, but doesn't really create turnovers? I don't know what that's going to fetch you. Is it going to get you a 3rd? Is it going to get you a 4th, conditional 3rd? Like, it's not getting you a 2. I don't think. There's no way that's getting you a 2. But
maybe a 3rd. Like,
and at that point, it's like, sorry, I keep playing with these earplugs, and for people that are wondering what keeps popping in, that's watching on YouTube, I'll get it off my hands. But yeah, and it's at that point, it's like, okay, a 3rd. We're probably, like, because it's weird, right? Newsome's a tough one, because corners, that 50-year option, if you just pick it up, that's going to be a big number, man. Because remember, it's the average. I think it's the average of the top 10 paid players at the position, and corner is a premium position. So that's a big number. What do you want to pay him on an extension? Like, Newsome's a tough one, man. Like, that's a tough one. But yeah, to your point, Njoku, Newsome. People are talking about Zadarius Smith, who's 32, but he's incredible. The guy's got 5 sacks. He's got 65 career sacks. So, and he's a 1-year rental, I think, or maybe there's 2 years on that. So yeah, this is a team that, it's interesting, right? Because you get to 2-6, and you start thinking about, well, I'm going into free agency now, or I'm a vet, and it's like, what are we doing here? And I've got to think about my next contract, and I don't think it's going to be here because they're going to be rebuilding. Like, things can get kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
Things can get kind of weird.
The precedent is that AJ Terrell Atlanta contract, he got paid a ton of money and doesn't get any interceptions. So I think it's
right.
the eye of the beholder, right? If somebody thinks Greg Newsom's going to be a starting corner for them for the next 5-6 years, and they're willing to give up a conditional third or something, then that's what's going to be interesting. Which actually kind of leads up to the next topic I think we should talk about, is just this trade deadline, and especially if the Chargers, we'll put out good vibes. Let's say they get a win on Sunday and get to 5-3. The trade deadline is just 48 hours later, and we've talked about wide receiver a lot, but I do think that with Quentin back and DJ Chark, I just don't see anybody out there, money, that's going to put them over the top. I don't see a situation where there's an elite wide receiver out there that a team's going to trade that's going to put the Chargers over the top. Maybe I'm missing somebody.
I see two. I'll be honest, Chris. I see two.
Who do you see?
And I think if they're willing to accept a 2 for a guy that they took as a high 1, then that deal can be made. Because you're not getting Chris Olave for anything less than a 2. And the Saints are 2-6. They've lost 6 in a row. They've got a disaster of a cap situation. Again, he's coming up. He's going into, what's Olave? I think Olave's a year behind Slater. So you would probably be looking at doing the extension. You wouldn't have to, but
year 3? Is he year 3 right now? I think he was Zion's year. He was Zion's.
So he's year 3. But again, you're not getting a 1 for him. But for whatever reason, like, they just have not been able to maximize him. And he is a legitimate number 1 receiver. He can beat press. He can fly. He's got incredible hands. He's tough as nails. You can play him in the slot. You can play him at Z. You can absolutely play him at X. He's a physical dude. I'd give up a 2 for him tomorrow. And the other one's Garrett Wilson. How ugly does this thing get for the Jets? Because they're going to have to pay him, and it's like, what are you doing? You got Aaron Rodgers for another year? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe they'll trade Devontae Adams money. Maybe they'll trade Devontae Adams.
You know what? It's not a bad idea.
It's not.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm half joking. It probably should be done.
I'm not like, why wouldn't you? What are you going to do with that guy? If San Francisco called and offered you a little bit less than what you gave up, yeah, you got egg on your face. But what are you doing? Like, the Bills are running away with that division right now, running away with it. So you really think? I guess the one thing you look at is sort of what are the what's the AFC's a mess. Like, that's kind of what you're looking at. You're like, all right now the Chargers are the 7 seed at 4-3. So are we really that far out of this? If we can get our act together, like, that's the thing. You got the Colts at 4-4 in the 8 spot. Chargers are 4-3 at 7. So even if you're sitting there at 2-6 and you're like, can we turn this around and get to 9-8? Can we go 7-2 somehow? Because that might be enough. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's,
you know what? They play the Texans tonight. We're taping this on Halloween, so you guys are going to listen to this probably Friday morning, and you'll know the result of Texans-Jets. So this conversation will be choose your own adventure now. Like,
yeah. If the Texans beat the Jets, it's like the schedule makers did them a great favor, because, look, the Texans have kind of had their own issues as well. I know they're 6-2, but you look at it and it's like, oof, now Stephon Diggs is down. They've been dealing with injuries. They've had a couple ugly games that they've managed to squeak out because of opponent. Like that Colts game, what a mess. What an absolute mess. Like, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So if the
Jets are favored tonight.
Yeah, which I can see. I can totally see that, as crazy as that sounds. That's that. If they lose that game, they're 2-7, then yes, I think you could possibly see them saying, all right, we got to freaking get a bunch of draft picks in here. But what's it worth? Are you willing to give up a 2 and a 4 for a 2 and a 5 that can become a 4 for Garrett Wilson. Like, I don't know what it's worth to them to do that. Do you really want a bunch of old receivers and Aaron Rodgers going into the season next year? But those are the two that I'm looking at. I know there's some people saying DK Metcalf, but I don't know why you do that if you're the Seahawks. You're still a pretty darn good team. Yeah. I know it's kind of gotten away from you a little bit here and there, but that one I don't quite understand. And that's it. I think, there's rumors that Jordan Addison's fallen out of the rotation in Minnesota. But again, you're not getting a 1 for him. You just drafted him 2 years ago. So you're really going to give up on a guy that you got locked in at wide receiver at that salary?
Yeah.
Because it's so.
DK getting reunited with his wide receiver coach here would be awesome.
Absolutely.
So I just don't know why Seattle would even entertain that.
Right. Like, to me, it's those two. I think it's
–
now that Christian Kirk got hurt, unfortunately, I think he absolutely would have been moved. That's, Calvin Ridley's an interesting one. I think Calvin's a 1. I really do. I think he's an absolute 1. It's a lot of money that you're taking on, and I don't think the Chargers have that kind of space. They'd have to figure out, I think, how to squeeze that in, because I think he's making, $20 million a year. Yeah. So there we go. That's
what
me
about
just
tight
kind
end?
of.
What about guys like Njoku and Evan Ingram?
I don't know about Ingram. I think Njoku because Ingram just signed that deal. So I think Njoku makes a little bit more sense. He's a little bit more of that full service. Hunter Henry, I think, is a no-brainer.
Bring him home.
If to me, that's a no-brainer. Now, granted, everybody that, with the exception of John Spanos is gone, that, drafted and then inherited and developed Hunter and let him go in the first place, which they never should have done. That was one of the great mistakes. It was not a big money deal. They were worried about injuries, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Don't worry about injuries. The guy had, it's not like he was gone 8 games a year every year. We had got dinged a couple times. Big deal. But yeah, I'd bring back Hunter Henry in a half second. That's Njoku. I'm looking Bengals, Colts, over here. Yeah, I don't see much on the tight end front. Yeah, that would be the one.
The thing about Hunter is nobody was here, but Justin threw to him his rookie year. I mean, like if Justin has his say, and I'm not saying they're asking Justin who would you want, but like, listen, man, Mike Williams wasn't even targeted last week, so Aaron Rodgers is completely icing him out now. And I feel like he will be traded. I don't know to whom or how much, but like Mike's just being wasted in New York right now. Yeah,
I mean, and that's to me, it's like, do I think Mike can be the number 1 here? I don't know with the ACL. Like, I'm not sure how far back he is. It'd be great to have. Again, you want that X, run down get off a press, run down, win 50-50 balls, pull a safety for help, and get this thing to breathe. Mike's a great fit, and he's not going to cost you anything. It's a 6th round pick if you take on the salary. So the great thing about Hunter is just sign an extension. Just sign an extension. Not a huge signing bonus, 7.5. So it's not like they're eating a ton. And you got this guy under contract for the next 2 years after this for an average of $8 million a year. Yeah. Like, it's a pretty good deal for Hunter Henry. Like, I think those are the ones I'd be looking at. Those are the ones that probably make the most sense. I think it's a great call on the tight end, because I think, look, check this out. How long are we going now? Yeah, we're way long. So I'm just talking in circles, but I've got all this stuff that I wanted to get to. I just have to kind of pull it up here.
Finish it, man. It's all
so
good.
Like Will Dissly, God love him, man. He blocks his tail off. His highest single season. This is in any season of his previous six seasons as a pro. So these aren't necessarily all from the same year. His highest targets, 38. Highest receptions, 34. Yards, 349. First downs, 20. That's in an individual season. Those are his highs. Right now with the Chargers, he's got 33 targets, 26 receptions, 233 yards, and 12 first downs through 7 games. So when you see the ball fall off his fingertips on a perfectly thrown pass that would have gone for 35 yards, yeah, you're asking Will to do a lot, man. Yeah. A lot more than he's ever been. It's one thing to have a spot route or a choice route or a seam route. Well, now you're asking the guy to run a wheel and he's got to track and secure over. That's not what's been asked. That's not what he's been asked to do. So that's more what Hayden Hurst has been asked to do. And he's just, unfortunately not healthy. So,
yeah, I don't think Will was envisioning a featured pass catching role when he signed with the Chargers. And it's
great for him.
It's great.
He's doing great
in Arizona against the Cardinals. It's great that he was able to catch some balls yesterday, but I don't think that this offense is meant to look exactly like that. And, again, with DJ Chark, you guys will monitor that as we get through the rest of this week. And Quentin Johnston's ankle, getting Quentin back, I think would be nice too for this offense. We talked about these wide receivers, but there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them on this team, and Justin's starting to build some chemistry with them. So
that's why it's just a one. Like, it doesn't, to me, like the whole Deontay Johnson or that sort of thing. Like, no, if you're going to get a receiver, this team needs to get the guy. Like the guy that then kind of puts.
Like you said, Olave was good. Olave's good.
Yeah, Olave would be huge. Would be just. I would absolutely. Is Loomis still the guy there? I think he is. I mean, I'd be peppering Mickey Loomis, saying, "Come on, man, let's."
They've just been kicking money down the curve for years in New Orleans too, and if you can't pay the guy what he's ultimately going to get on the open market, get something for him immediately.
Yeah. And look, wide receiver salaries just keep getting crazier and crazier. So you want to get that guy locked up. Obviously, this offseason, they got to lock up Rashawn. That's going to cost a fortune. And you're going to probably want to get some, get that number one receiver. And if you can get it in Olave, he's young. He's ready to grow with Q. And then you kind of can get your comp picks to work out. So anyway, there we go.
Cleveland should be fun, man. I'm going to the Hall of Fame in Canton on Saturday.
Oh, fun!
I'm going to do a piece there and talk to the communications guy there. He's going to get out some Charger stuff that's not typically on display. So do a little piece for CBS. I'm always excited to go to the Hall, dude. It's fun. It's fun. Hopefully Gates will be there next year, but
he will be. He better be.
Yeah.
It's stupid that he wouldn't get it on his first ballot. It's ridiculous, but they make you do that. It's just dumb. So. I got to figure it out. We got to sort out some things. And if we can get it right, then I'm going to head over to Ann Arbor and watch Oregon, Michigan. So I just kind of got to figure out if I can get some things to line up, because it's a 3:30 kick. It's about a 3-hour drive, 3-hour drive from Cleveland. So
is that it?
That's it. Yeah, it's not that far. So you just got to kind of wrap around and go up. Unfortunately, don't have a duck boat that I can drive to the water and just cut across. Might cut it off a little bit, but it's about 3 hours. So that's the plan. If we can get it to work out, we'll see. I'd like for it to work out. So DJ and I, we're always looking for a Saturday game when we travel on Friday. So he and I are like, come on, man. As much as I'd like to go see Akron v. Buffalo, not quite as exciting to get the action going on Saturday.
Let's go up. Let's go up a couple classes, right? Let's go to
exactly. Let's see if we can get to the big house and pile in there and watch some Oregon, Michigan football. Now that we don't have to worry about watching the Dodger World Series Game 7 that night, kind of frees that up quite a bit.
Man, yeah. A lot of illegal fireworks going off in LA. I'm sure you guys heard them.
Exactly right.
All right. Hey, we went over 50 minutes.
That's a long one.
Yeah, it's a long one, but always fun, guys. For Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly. We'll see you on Sunday in Cleveland.